So Chris Cook, double double Commonwealth gold medalist, picked up a few records along the way as well, Olympic finalist. And we've been speaking, and I really wanted to get your take to be able to help people on how ordinary people can get extraordinary results. So I was hoping maybe you could take us back to your beginnings and just share how a man like you ended up on the podium with gold medals around his neck.
Oh, that's a big one. I mean, it's really interesting when I look back and I think back to when it started, because I embarked on this journey to become an Olympian by watching other people, and I watched other people, and then I got the chance to meet them and watch them, and I'll never forget meeting a guy called Adrian Morehouse, who's an Olympic gold medalist in the Seoul Olympic Games. He came back from the games with a medal and trotted around the country. And I went to this road show. Speedo were running this road show. I went along, and it was at the City of Newcastle pool, which coincidentally later I moved there 10 years after that. But at the time I was only 9. And I remember getting a photograph with him and another guy called Nick Gillingham, who won a silver medal in the men's breaststroke as well, 200 meters breaststroke. And I was stood either side of they were either side of us. And I just thought, they're just normal guys. Yeah, they were quite tall compared to me as a 9-year-old. But I was like, I was normalizing it. I didn't realize at the time, but I was normalizing their achievements. And I was going, well, if I get that tall and I get that strong, then I could do that. And that became the start of my journey. And I wasn't trying to kind of bring their extraordinary achievements down. I was just trying to normalize it in my own mind. And I think, it's interesting when you set yourself a target and you set yourself a goal, because it's supposed to scare you. I didn't realize that at the time, but it was supposed to make you feel like, oh my God, there's a good chance I might not get this. And it's that journey between not having it and having it that we have to be extraordinary first. And there's no real timeline to that. And that's the frustrating thing, I think, for a lot of people. They want it now, they want it yesterday. But if you're prepared to take that journey and become extraordinary, it's only a matter of time before those results turn extraordinary and you've got them in your hands, or you've got them around your neck in my sort of story. But yeah, I'm just a normal lad from Southfields, from a small town up in the northeast. There's nothing exceptional about me. I'm not 6 foot something, and I've got massive arms and feet. I wasn't perfectly designed for swimming, but I had that passion and I had that desire, and I've still got it now, weirdly enough, even though I'm not a swimmer now. I work on a stage as a guest speaker. I work as a coach. I've got my own business, but I've got that inner drive that I suppose I learned from sport, but I've got that inner drive to want tomorrow to be just that little bit better than it was yesterday. I think that's a massive key factor. I don't know for you and your clients, but that's a massive factor for me.
So, but how can how do you access that?
I think the first thing is about accepting where you are right here, right now, and accepting it wholly, embracing it, embracing the vulnerability of your journey. And, if every day truly is an opportunity to put another block of excellence in place, then we need to acknowledge where we are and be honest about it. No blame, no shame, nothing like that. Just, if you're unfit, you're unfit. If you can't run a mile, you can't run a mile. Don't run the mile just yet. Maybe run just 10 steps. Then tomorrow, maybe set yourself 12. And I think it's that mentality of, first of all, accepting it and allowing yourself to be in that moment with its honesty and raw. And from that point onwards, you can just build and grow. I think that's the first step.
And so, how would a normal people go about living extraordinarily on a day-to-day basis? Talking about the process, right? The years before actually getting the medal. What can normal people do to show up each day?
Well, I mean, I'm a normal person, so first of all, they've got to take back control. That's a key. When I'm working with clients, and even when I'm working with sports people, they've got to take back control first and foremost. And the first point is their choices. They've got to take back control of their choices. So if they don't like the results, they've got to own the choices. And again, it's not looking at blame or anything like that. And, they did this, or it's been done to me. Life doesn't happen to you. You happen to life. And it's that mentality of controlling your own mindset of what's passing through your mind on a minute by minute basis. keep it really simple. Is what you're thinking useful or useless? Because if it's useless, don't use it. But I see so many people don't even challenge it. They don't even ask it. They don't even ask that question. Is what I'm thinking right now helping me progress, or is it holding me back? When I challenge a lot of my clients, I'll say, where was your mindset mostly this week? And they'll say, I was thinking about this and something happened 7 years ago. I'm like, how's that helping you now? But it's not, but my mindset went there. I was like, you've got control over this. So when you catch yourself in those moments, it's just about practicing that progressive mindset. And I think the last point on there is, how can they kind of take control of it now, is just be aware of what the triggers are. There's gains and drains out there. You've got a choice. You can either work towards drawing in those gains, or you can draw in some of those drains that take away your energy. You've got to manage them. And on the pre-call, we were talking about stop watching the news. Stop. Those 5 words, stop watching the news, are ones I offer to every single client. It doesn't change your life for the better. I've never ever jumped off the sofa, Blake, and thought, get in, I've just watched the news, I can't wait to go and smash live. So it doesn't make a difference to my life immediately. And I've been challenged loads on this. I got challenged on stage by someone who said, oh, but you'll be misinformed or ill-informed. And I just thought, you know what, I'd rather be misinformed and ill-informed, if I'm honest with you. I'd rather not have the information if it's wrong. And it's inaccurate.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, that we could go down a rabbit hole on this one, but the news is such a great example of it's something that our chimp brain, like the primitive part of our brain, its goal is safety, security, survival, right? That's all it is. And a lot of people don't realize that your brain is not there to make you happy. It's not. And it's not there to achieve great goals. It's there to keep you safe. So anytime we step outside our comfort zone and we want to achieve things in the modern world, we're playing a game of tug of war against our chimp in our head. That's really just all it wants to do is keep us the same. But one of the things the chimp does is it's obviously the guardian of our comfort zone. And it looks out for danger for us. So we are primed to look out for danger. And the media, again, I don't want to go too conspiracy theory on this, but it's really quite a basic dynamic. The media know this. So the goal of media is something termed as white fear, meaning we've got to keep people scared enough that they'll keep coming back to check the news every day. You look at COVID, for example, the media going, this is amazing because people are glued to the news.
True.
We'll go back every single day and we can create headlines that make people go, oh God, I better read this. Is everything okay? I hope everything's okay. And it just taps into that white fear, which we're predefined that we look out for that. But they don't want to get us too scared that we panic. So they have to keep us in this white fear. And when you understand that about the news, that they're not really there to help you. They're there to sell news, and they're there to keep it's a business. They've got to keep you coming back day after day after day after day. And so that's why drama like that, we are attracted to it. And again, if you could just stop watching the news, and the term I like is don't love things that don't love you back.
I love that. That's great.
And the news doesn't love you. Right? It won't love you back. So don't love things that don't love you back. The donut, don't love it because it won't love you back. Fall in love with things that will love you back, that will help you.
That's brilliant. But I think you're right, Blake. Just looking out for those triggers, and often, people that come in the form of people as well. Be mindful of the people that you're spending the most time with, and where their mindset is at, because it can bleed into your own. And I do now and again brush shoulders with people who will say things like, oh, you're just all super positive, aren't you, Chris? You can hear that kind of crass comment come out the mouth. And I always say, I have my own negative thoughts too. I have my own demons too. If what you're saying is right, what I'm getting is you're saying I'm optimistic, then absolutely I am the optimist, because life is about change. that is, if you resist change, you resist the very essence of life. Since we've been on this call, millions of cells have died in our body and being replenished. Change is happening constantly. So going out into the world and being ever the optimist, I do believe is achievable. Being positive all the time, I don't feel as though it's constantly achievable. I think there are moments when you do have that relapse, and that would be my next point is, it's okay. It's okay to have those thoughts. It's okay to have the doubts. In fact, your doubts can be a fantastic teacher. They can help you. They can really shine a torch in a dark space to help you fix something that's kind of subconsciously not quite working for you. And, listening to those vulnerabilities, I say to all my clients all the time, we're sharing vulnerabilities in order to be stronger. We're being courageously vulnerable is what I always call it. And it's that evolution when people take that step to being vulnerable in their own thoughts and just being the observer of them and notice their triggers, they start to learn all sorts of different layers about themselves that weren't even there in the first, like they didn't know were there in the first place. It's mad. I love it.
Yeah, I think, I see those as fears and doubts. That they're signposts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Go, and again, like you say, to be in total control of the choices you make and how you react to things, rather than latch onto those fears. You go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why am I resisting that? Or why am I scared about that? Or, and again, often it's that chimp.
It is
just guarding us, our comfort zone. The chimp doesn't want change. The chimp doesn't want you doing anything new. If you've got a roof over your head and you're well fed, it will go, let's change nothing. Right? And so it's that 1st of January thing where people go, right, this year things going to be different. And they start writing a list of stuff that they want to achieve that year. And the chimp in the background's going, yeah, we'll see. Like, I don't want to do any new stuff. And when people understand that there are opposing forces that are actually happening in their brain, and that actually the chimp is actually trying to help you, it's trying to just keep you safe.
Yeah.
But the modern part, the frontal lobes, is where all our hopes and dreams are. We go, I want to go and do this. I want to go and be an Olympian. But the chimp, and so much of it is this tug of war, this anguish in the brain. And I don't know if you ever watched it. If you ever want to waste 10 minutes of your life, go on YouTube, tug of war, because you watch it and the gun goes and then everybody pulls. There's anguish on their face and there's no movement.
Yeah.
Like, so much energy in it is expended and there's zero movement for a long time. And that's often what happens in people's brain. And it's this anguish and this tug of war, but then there's no movement. And so where people take total responsibility and start learning, a big lot of success is actually chimp management. How do we actually, learn to notice the forces in us that are holding us back, and the fears and limiting beliefs, which are tools that the chimp uses to be able to keep us convince us that it's better off if we stay in our comfort zone, but then start going, that's interesting. Maybe that's just a hurdle that I need to overcome so that I can move forward.
I think that's the difference, when I'm from a sport background, the difference between reacting and responding. When we react, it's often very emotional, it's very emotive, it's driven by our emotions, and it's really powerful. So when lockdown first happened, I lost 2 businesses overnight. I lost the opportunity to stand on stage with a microphone and speak, or grab an audience, a physical audience. And I've got to learn to swim business where we teach nearly 1,000 children in our local area to swim. Well, we couldn't do that because we were now locked down. So before lockdown happened, my businesses were shut and everybody else was kind of going about their things. Schools were still operating. And my chimp, like you say, my emotions were just going haywire. Now, I know historically that's okay for me because I'm an emotive person. I'm quite a sensitive person. So my emotions went haywire and I just let them. I let them do it in a safe environment and in my own home. But I knew they would subside, and at some point my logical brain would kick in and give me some solutions, because that's what it's there for. It's there to give you some, problem solve. That's what the brain's there for. It's there to problem solve, like you say, to keep you alive. And that took about 3 or 4 weeks. And after those 3 or 4 weeks, I started getting ideas through. I started getting inspiration through, and I pivoted the business, changed both businesses. And it's been one of the best things that's ever happened. So, but historically, I know that to be the case with me because it's happened previous in several different areas of my life, several different times. So becoming the observer is the offer here. When people just observe what's right for them, they often get the answer of what's right for them.
Mm.
And that's really important, is understanding what do you need in order to perform, because it's different. It might be really similar between me and you, Blake, but at some point it differs, because what's right for you might not be right for me, and on some different levels. So that's what, when I started to become world class in swimming, it was because I started to learn, what do I need in order to perform. I can learn from other people, I can watch other people. I used to watch other people walk up to the blocks with headphones on, blaring music, and I thought, oh, I'll try that. So I got my headphones on, got some pretty cool music on, walked to the blocks, and I had a terrible time. I swam awful. Tried it 3 or 4 times, same result, really bad results. And I wrestled with it for ages until my coach just said, hey, that doesn't work for you, just ditch it. I was wrestling with it. I was like, no, it must, because it works for him and he's the world record holder.
Yeah.
And actually, when I ditched it, what I did that day, I made a declaration to myself, little did I know, but I'm ditching that because it doesn't work for me. And I think that's what my belief is, that a lot of people haven't quite worked out what's right for them or not. Reading might be fantastic for someone, might be somebody else's worst nightmare. They might prefer audiobooks or something audible. But slowly building up, what do you need in order to perform at your best is a really important part of success.
Yeah. I think it's a great point. I mean, there's so many books out there that are excellent books, all about habits and 5 a.m. club and do this, and you've got to meditate, and you've got to read this book, and you've got to do that, and the list is endless.
Yeah.
Right. To be a successful person, I've got to wake up 3 hours before I go to bed I've got to have this amount of water, and I've read all those books.
Yeah.
And very much that you go, okay, you just experiment with some stuff.
Yeah.
And then you find out, well, what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And when you start listening to that, and you're just very honest with yourself as well, because there are sometimes, well, it doesn't work for me waking up before 9 a.m. Yeah, well, there's certain things you got to get a certain amount of stuff in. So you've got to be honest with yourself. But it's a great point. I mean, I know one of your missions is about helping people embrace challenge and change.
Yeah.
And so let's dig into that a bit more. How can the average person, the ordinary person, go about doing that?
Well, I've got this philosophy, and it's just my own, for my own life, I suppose, is when we're faced with a challenge, whether we've chosen it or not, when we're faced with a challenge, either it comes our way and we haven't got much room to negotiate, we have to hit it head on, or we've chosen to take the path. What often happens is, or what I see happen is, people lack the skills to really take that challenge on in the initial stages, if you like. So often the challenge is here, and their skill level or their character is here. The trade-off is when we match the challenge, when we improve our skills and we start to take that step up to meet the challenge, what we actually do is, people are looking at the outcome as the thing they get at the end, as the gold medal. That's not the true outcome. The true outcome is the character you become, the person you become in the pursuit of it. So at the start of any challenge, I always have that conversation with myself to say, what you're going to get out of this is something you get to keep forever, not the tangible physical thing that you put around your neck or you put in your bank, or you put on your driveways and fancy new car. It's taking on the challenge is more about that character development than anything else. And when you start to look at it like that, you're always going to win. You either go out and win or you go out and learn. You don't lose. And it's that mentality. Instead of looking at the challenge like it's this massive thing, like, so for example, we were talking about it earlier, public speaking. Loads of people have this kind of really bad reaction to public speaking. And I've helped a couple of people get out on the stage and just speak. And they're so shocked at how I say, just be yourself. The first thing, you've got to be yourself. Don't try and be someone else, because people will smell it. Just be you. Be the best version of you possibly can be. And they can't do it. They really struggle to do that bit. Yet they've been doing them for so long. I'm like, just do that. You know, the coaching session? Yeah, just imagine we're having a coaching session, but you're just doing it with 40 people. They're like, yeah, but it's 40 people, it's 40 people. Because they're looking at the challenge. All they can see is the challenge. When you switch your focus to see what you get in the pursuit of it, the characteristics that you start to build, the skills that you build, you start to see it through a completely different lens. And I've had loads of success working with people by just switching their focus to look at exactly what they're getting. I call it the blueprint, because you can take that blueprint and you can apply it anywhere. And that's essentially, Blake, what I left swimming with. I didn't leave swimming with medals and records. I left swimming with a blueprint that I could apply in any area of my life, and it works. You know, I'm an advocate for keep it simple. That's my main message. Keep it simple. And when we focus on the simple things, what invariably starts to happen is those extraordinary things in life start coming our way in abundance.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've got a piece of art in my office through there, and it says, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication," which is a quote by Da Vinci, and he was a smart dude, you know. So yeah, trying to find simplicity in everything you do.
Yeah. And I think, I think for a lot of people, is people who really, really, really know their craft can simplify it.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. If you really know your craft, you can simplify it. If you don't, you'll overcomplicate it. It's true. It's true. And when people start to migrate towards that simple approach, there's always a bit of resistance of, well, if it was this easy, everyone would be doing it, or we've always done it that way. And the first thing I say is, I said simple, not easy. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
And actually making that jump to doing something to keeping it simple is a really, really brave move, because it's a message to the rest of the world that I know my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We say to clients, it's simple, it's just not easy.
Yeah.
Simple, it's just not easy. You just got to follow it. But like you'd said early on, it was a lot of people, we're in this world of instant gratification.
Yeah.
And if we go back to actually one of the, probably maybe it's the most overused, but the simplest explanation of success is the marshmallow experiment, where you give a kid a marshmallow and you can say you can have it now, or if you wait 5 minutes, we'll give you 2.
Yeah.
And most kids take the one marshmallow. And remember, adults are just kids, right? Adults are just kids in adult bodies. That's all we are, right? You don't suddenly go, oh, I'm a real adult. You know, we're just kids. And, you know, they track these kids over years, and they go, basically, as simple as this: those who are able to delay gratification became much more successful in later life.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know, and I think, you know, maybe there's a book in this one day, I don't know, but I think people ruin their lives in their 20s.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is they go, you know, like your equation, you say, who do I need to become to ultimately do the things, to actually have the things I want? Whereas most people go, I want to have this stuff. What do I need to do to have this stuff? They forget about the who do I need to become? What do I need to learn?
Yeah.
And they try and buy their way to success. And in their 20s, they go and buy stuff to look successful, and they buy cars and they buy shoes, and, you know, they just, and I'm like, if you spent your 20s just reinvesting back into personal development and becoming the person you needed to become, that can never be taken away from you. A car ends up in a scrap heap. You know, shoes get overused. All of this stuff that you spend to impress people you don't even know, right? Yeah. So, you know, that's the framework: be, do, have. You got to be before you do. You got to do before you have. And that question of who do I need to become as a person to be able to do the things, to have the things I want, rather than focusing on, you know, having stuff.
It's such a genius way of looking at it. And you know, the second, or the last point on that is when you look back at your own view, because there's a time at which we always look back over our own view. And if people don't, then they're missing a trick, really. But that would be just to take pride in who you are. You know, I was asked years ago on stage, you know, what's your most prized achievement? What's the biggest achievement from swimming? And I just had a moment of honesty. I'd been asked it so many times before, and I said, all the other times I'd said, oh, this gold medal or this moment. And it was a young person who'd asked me the question. And I said, do you know, honestly, it's the person I've become. that's the thing I'm most proud of, because I get to take me everywhere. But I grew up in I suppose in a family culture where it wasn't, you didn't pride yourself. You don't pat yourself on the back. You don't take pride. You don't kind of almost relish in your own success, because that would be getting too big headed, and it's that type of thing where there's a line to be had. There's a fine line, but I do believe we've got to reflect over our own shoulder and just see how far we've come and just pat ourselves on the back. It's a huge part of it. If you don't stop to celebrate, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And taking that time is so important.
I know you teach something about having your own script and your what your identity says about yourself, or help us understand that a bit, because that is so powerful.
Yeah, so I believe everybody has got a script in their own head that they're excuse me, selling themselves back. They're telling themselves all the time. Everything from how we dress, the political views, how much money we feel we can earn, our class, what class we feel we're in, the middle class or working class, all of that. And a huge amount of that script is kind of, we start etching it from such a young age, an impressionable age. Feedback we get from parents and people around us tell us about our script, and then we start selling that script, like I said, to ourselves. So people say things like, I'm just really unlucky. That's their script telling them that they're unlucky. And then what their brain does, it goes and looks for evidence. And when they're really unlucky, it goes, see, I told you I was unlucky. The script taught me, and there it is. But actually they don't stop to think, well, actually, maybe my brain is primed just to look for unlucky moments. And that's the key, is when we challenge the script, excuse me, when we challenge that script and we start to see it for what it is, it's just a story. It's a story. We've got control of that story. Things like, well, my dad was like that, so I'm just like that. I'm just like my dad, or you're just like your mum, you. These things are etched, and they just play over and over again on loop without us even knowing. And we go out and we act it out into the world. And it's key that we start to challenge that script. And when we challenge that script, we start to see it for what it is. Like I said, it's just a story. And we get to pick up the pen and write the chapter. That's the beautiful thing. And it can take time. And some things do hang around, like, so money's a big one for a lot of people. For a while, I was growing up around money is the root of all evil. A big pile of money on the table without people around is not evil. It does nothing. It just sits there.
Yeah.
And people to it, I can see where people's intentions get skewed, and there's things go wrong. But actually, I started to challenge that, and money for me is now just energy. It's just an exchange of energy. That's all that it is. And actually, money as well for me is just helps me make more choices. I don't have to make those choices, but it gives me an opportunity to make them if I really want to.
Yeah, for sure. I reframe it with some clients, because a lot of my clients are in healthcare, and so they feel guilty about making money, and we just reframe it. We say, look, money is just the applause you get for the person you become, doing a great job, providing an environment where your team and your patients can bring their best work to the world.
Brilliant.
It's just applause.
That is brilliant. I like that.
I stole that.
Who was that borrowed? Permanently borrowed.
Yeah. Ken Blanchard, something like that. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the bit that actually needs to get taught in school the most, is that your behavior comes from your unconscious.
Yeah.
The files that are in there. And you're totally right about the script, is that, depending on your upbringing and your nurturing, you'll have different beliefs put in there. Like the day you're born, you've got this brand new library. And you imagine walking into this library and all of the shelves are there, but they're just empty, because there's no reference yet. And so day one, the baby goes like this. And then for the next 7 years, there's sort of 3 phases of development, 7 and then 7 to 14, then 14 to 21. In the first 7 years, you're just this wandering unconscious mind, basically meaning you believe anything that you're told.
Yeah.
And, so you also believe everything you're told about yourself. And over the 7 years, like there's just this flood of files and books that comes into your library. You know, you have now references about friendship and romantic relationships. And, you know, there's this one section in your library called identity,
Yeah.
or what do you believe about yourself? What's your script? And unfortunately, most people don't realize this, but they're, you know, they're letting the 5 or 6 or 7-year-old in their brain pilot their plane in adult life,
Yeah.
because we can only work off the implicit beliefs that we have sitting in our reference library.
Yeah.
I am not good enough, I am this, or I am not a morning person,
Yeah.
or I'm not that smart. Whatever that script is,
Yeah.
your brain, your conscious brain, cannot work out of alignment with what it believes. It
Yeah.
has to work in alignment with it.
Yeah.
And so at some stage, we've got to go in and we've got to go, okay, what are those beliefs that are actually holding me back? What are the beliefs that I hold about myself that are actually holding me back? And we needed to go and do a bit of an inventory and go, well, actually, we put this stuff in here in the library a long time ago. So maybe we should go and have a look, have a little review of the library and go in, let's go into the identity one, because that's the most important one. This has got a whole list of files which say, I am this, I am that. Let's keep the ones that are good.
Yeah.
And then let's get rid and do a bit of housekeeping and get rid of the ones that are no longer serving us, you know. And I think, yeah, that part alone, when people can work on their beliefs, and specifically the beliefs they hold about themselves, or at
Yeah.
least start with that awareness to go, well, you know, what is it about me that means that I'm not allowing myself to get results that other people do? And it really comes back down to the thinking.
That is such a good way of putting it, Blake. And that is exactly, when you were talking there, I was going through really quick, almost flashbacks of when I started to challenge my script. You know, at that moment when you just go, is that really true? Or have I just made that up? You know, you think back to people who hold you back, but they've been missing out your life for 15 years, you know, and I hear people say it all the time, or, oh, I just had a really bad relationship with someone. And I'm like, they've been gone a long time. 15 years is a long time to be working away from them. So it's clear that they're just replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. And like you said, they're taking it out of that library and just rereading the book again and again instead of just challenging it. And I think there's a big part of us, we have to take responsibility as well for giving up our own personal history. I think that's a big part of it, you know, and selecting the things that are really going to help us get there. Because in business, what's helped me get to this point, I know for a fact I'm going to have to change, because it won't help me get to the next point. Because, you know, I'm managing people, I'm a business owner. Eventually, I'm going to migrate my business to where I'm just the owner, where I don't have to do the kind of day-to-day stuff. And that'll be whenever it is, in 10, 15, 20 years time, I'll migrate to being an owner. And that's a very different role, but I'll have to ditch just picking up a brush or whatever I do on a day-to-day basis, you know, to do the daily things, because that won't be my task anymore. And I think that's a really important part of it, is just giving up that personal history, that it's not, if it's not useful, then and don't take it forward. Don't take it forward. But you know what? I'm really, really excited about next year. You know, when we were talking about this call, the thing that I was most excited about is there's going to be a pile of opportunities next year. They might look different, sound different, smell different, act different, but there's still going to be opportunities, and the world will still turn. I'm pretty certain of that. And it's that I feel is missing in a lot of people. I feel as though there's a lot of doom and gloom around, because everybody's listening to the doom and gloom. You know, I'm sat in my office on a daily basis, surrounded by a phrase on two of the walls, and it says "emerge stronger." And the other one is "make the comeback stronger than the setback." They're the two phrases that I put up there at the start of lockdown. And when I walk in, my daily basis decisions are all based around coming back stronger, emerging stronger, and making the comeback even stronger. And that for me is all around one word: positioning. Because when these opportunities come around, we've got to be in a position to be ready for them, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And the turn of the year is not going to do anything really. It's just a date. Like, it's just the 1st of Jan. It's no different. It's the choices and decisions that we continuously make through the year. But I do think a mantra helps. I'm a massive fan of having a mantra, and they're my two at this moment in time. And do you know what? Things are coming my way. I've got 16 brand new opportunities that I never had before lockdown, and I don't think I would have had maybe 13 of them. I wouldn't have had 13 of them because I've pivoted and moved the business, and we are emerging stronger now, and I can feel it. There's a movement happening. So I suppose my offer here is, getting excited is about positioning yourself ready to take those opportunities because they are coming.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it sort of comes back to that mindset as well, being okay with being okay with change, understanding change is inevitable and necessary, and actually being flexible at the moment rather than resilient. This word resilience, it's quite hard, resilient, fine. But what about just being flexible, going, actually, who knows what's happening? We're going to be flexible with it.
I agree. In one of my talks, I talk about mental agility, just being agile to change directions when the rest of the world is zigging, you got to make sure you zag. That it's that mentality, and the pace of change is not going to get any slower. It's not. Technology is going to make sure of that. It's going to get faster.
Mm-hmm.
So if we feel the pace of change isn't quite fitting us right here, right now, we've got to strap ourselves in for what's about to come. And the bit that needs to change is not the slowing down of the pace. It's how we adapt to the pace. That's the bit that needs changing. It's how we apply ourselves in those moments of immense change at pace. The world stopped when COVID hit. I mean, the world stopped. The world, it blows my mind at how a virus, something tiny that we can't see, has ground everything to a halt. And it stopped, and it was quick. That month or two was just such a short period of time. And I saw all sorts of different reactions in people, but basically people lost normal. They were grieving normal. That's what was felt in the air. There was a grief for normal. And I felt it. I went through that process. But out the other end, I understand that whatever you lose, if you stay in that sacrifice mindset, if you stay there, you'll only ever see the loss. You'll never see what you gain. We've got to allow that to run its course, absolutely, because that's just, we don't want to kind of push that away. But also, when we go through that process, there's something always at the other end that you gain. It's just being ready to see it.
Yeah.
Take it.
And I think that's where, again, it comes back down to self-responsibility and choice.
Yeah.
There's, I've just heard from speaking with people, like, I know of some people who've been on furlough for 8 months, and what have they done with it? Nothing.
Yeah,
They didn't do anything. I'm like, you had 8 months.
I know.
You could have done so much, right?
I know.
And the choice thing. I have a framework of 3 things. It goes, there's 3 choices. You choose what you do. Everybody understands that. I make choices. Doing nothing is also a choice.
Yeah.
You choose to do nothing. That's a choice.
Yeah.
And then the third one, which is slightly harder to perhaps get for everyone, is we choose how we react to what happens to us.
Yeah.
The outside world happens to us. Nothing we can do about it. Some things are out of our control. So the choice is, how do we react to what happens to us? And I just think, I know, but we both took our businesses online like that within a couple of months.
Yeah.
I know with your business, with my business, that like total change.
Yeah.
And I was working 7 days a week, and to totally shift the business, because that was my choice. I could have chosen to do nothing, which I still don't get why. You're like, oh, you've got 8 months to re-educate, do an online course, change career. I don't know, build a business, try building a business, do something. But and that then comes back to how do you show up on a daily basis? What's the person you want to become? There's no point blaming the government, blaming other people, blaming COVID, blame
Exactly.
if you're not at least giving it a crack yourself.
It's so true. And I think as well, I think a lot of people are frightened of success and failure in one go. And I think they try to stick with being the great person, because the great person, like you say, keeps them in that prison of, you're safe here. At least you're safe. You've got food and water. You're safe in this bit.
Mm.
And you know, a few years ago, I met a guy who completely shafted us over in business, and I spent I basically plowed my money into his business, and it didn't go anywhere. But it didn't go anywhere within about 3 weeks, if you know what I mean. So he basically closed it up once I'd put the money in, and he legged it. Long story short, I spent about 3 years really angry at him until I realized it was my desperation that actually led me there. I took responsibility for it. No blame, no shame or anything like that. It was my desperation, me trying to be successful again and not wanting to start again, trying to piggyback off what somebody else was doing, that got me in that mess. And once I grabbed a hold of that, my life took off literally overnight. It took off. It was almost like taking chainmail off, cutting the chainmail away, and my life took off again. And I often reflect back on that moment. You know, it wasn't an overt choice, and it wasn't out there. Nobody saw it. It was just an internal choice to go. It was me who created that. It was me who's going to take responsibility for that, and it's me who's now going to move on from that. And I did, and I'm so glad I did, because it's so easy to blame other people. But if you make a mistake, you're just one step closer to success. That's the way I see it. You know, at least you know what not to do. And I cringe when I think back to some of the decisions I made when we first opened our business. It makes my toes curl. But it's allowing yourself to just go through that process, that you actually learn to become world class at something and great again. But that is probably the one thing I've learned in the 10 years is, don't be frightened to start again. Don't be frightened to be a novice. And don't be frightened to ask as well. You know, go ask people. Most people, if you ask them for some time of how did you do that, they'll tell you. People generally like talking about what they do, and just ask them. And I've had conversations with people that I've thought there's no way I'll get a foot in the door there, and they've gone, yeah, of course, what time do you want to chat? I'm like, whoa. But it was a no if you didn't ask in the first place, so you might as well ask.
I think it's that, I don't know if it's more a British thing.
Yeah.
I've lived in the Middle East, I've lived in Australia. Us Brits, we're not very good at, our blowing our own trumpet, and we're really quite scared of failure here. And reminds me of Sarah Blakely, who is the world's youngest female billionaire. She created Spanx.
Oh, cool.
And every day her dad, rather than asking, what did you learn at school today? He asked her, what did you fail at today? He's like, because if you're not failing at something every day, you're not trying anything new, are you?
Brilliant.
So if you can get this relationship with failure, that you go, failure is where you learn, and it's pretty cool. And it's interesting that when you look back at all the failings, you go, those were just exactly the learnings that I needed to get to where I am today. And like Steve Jobs says, he goes, you can only connect the dots looking backwards.
Totally.
You don't know how they're meant to sort of fall into place, but every mistake I've made, I look back on and go, oh, awesome. Now, at the time, maybe it hurts a bit, but now I go, yeah. And so now I'm quite eager to try some stuff. And the more stuff that doesn't work, like inventing the light bulb, tried 10,000 times.
It's so true.
Before it worked.
Exactly. And I think embracing your failures is part of the process. You know, I always say it, I say exactly the same to my own kids, you know, keep pushing the boundaries. And if you're failing, it means you're actually getting somewhere, and you just keep failing forwards and fail as fast as you can, because, you know, like I said, the pace of change is only going to get faster. So the people really who are going to excel and come out of this the other end are the people who just embrace those bumps in the road, those failures. And I made a career out of going from one failure to the next until eventually I got success. But that's just the tweaking process. You come out of one race, you go, oh, that start was dreadful. The next race, you start's great, but your turns are dreadful. You're like, oh, for goodness sakes, I got the start, but I didn't get the turn. And then little bit by little bit, you put it together. You know, it just took me 16 years to do it. You think something that only takes 60 seconds should be an easy process. It wasn't easy, but it was simple. And that's what I always come back to is I just had to swim 2 lengths of the pool as fast as I could with all the trimmings. And if I did that, your outcome happens. When you focus on the process, the outcome happens.
Yeah. Were you one of them? You must have been one of the first people ever to swim under a minute.
Time? In the UK. And I think I was 9th in history, I think. in the top 10 or top 20. Yeah, it's been smashed now though. It's been absolutely obliterated now by
Only
the
by a
field.
second now, I think, which I know is a lot in terms, but like
Yeah,
Roger Bannister, when he did the
yeah,
3 minute, what was it? You know, he broke.
yeah.
Is it 3 minute mile? Yes.
I remember.
Then afterwards, everyone went, because the
Yeah,
doctors at the time said, no, if you ran under 3 minutes, your heart would explode and it would be
yeah,
impossible. And then he ran it under 3 minutes. And then that same year, about six
yeah.
other people went, it is possible.
It's just that expectation, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the when you see other people do it, there's a part of your brain goes, "Oh, well, it's doable." When you
Yeah.
don't see anybody do it, you just think, it doesn't cross your mind. No,
Mm.
is it Henry Ford who said, if I'd asked people what they wanted years ago before the automobile, they would have said faster horses. And
Yeah.
that was genius. That absolutely genius because often we don't know until somebody breaks a barrier, until somebody takes something on and does something completely different and out there. And we're going to see a lot of that in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to see a lot of that in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm certain of it because over the last 10 years, things have just changed so much. I can see that next change just being, a big generational change.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. It's that, firstly, it's the ability to believe that you can do what other people have done, regardless of where you've grown up or what you think with the bullshit script in your head
Yeah.
about why you definitely can't do it and why other
Yeah.
successful people are special and they, come from a different planet and that the
Yeah.
laws of science don't apply to me. I couldn't be successful myself.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that belief of, okay, well, if others have done it, well, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next phase is going to be, okay, well, is the believers, the dreamers who go and they set goals around things that have never been done before, and that's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
That's another level of
Yeah.
belief of, that's never been done before, but how could I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when the world moves on and kicks on.
Yeah. Big time. Big time.
And you mentioned it took you 16 years, and we sort of brushed over that point, but that bit to me is really important in the modern day, especially of instant gratification.
Yeah.
We go back to the marshmallow test.
Yeah.
You know, you got to fall in love with the process, right? What's your
100%.
advice for people when it comes to patience?
You've hit the nail on the head. You've taken that term right out off my script. You've got to love the process. When you love that, fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the process of getting better each day as a person, evolving and changing as a person. Fall in love with that bit because it's that journey that if we constantly hold out for it'll be all right when, we're going to be pretty disappointed when we get there.
Mm.
I've watched family members hold out for that moment that they retired and then spent the next 5 years after that just degenerating. And it wasn't what they thought it would be. It wasn't that nirvana. They didn't arrive there. They got there and then went, right, what next? But their mindset was still, it'll be all right when, because they'd practiced it for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. When we challenge that bit and we stop focusing on, it'll be all right once I get past this big talk that I've got, it'll be all right once I've got enough money, it'll be all right once we meet the right person. When we get beyond that, we can see that actually it's the process of getting there that we've got to fall in love with. So I think the bit I always focus on, especially with my clients, is what are the things that you do on a daily basis that have an impact to you personally and your project or whatever you've got going on. Not what more can I do, because what more can I do is a dangerous place to go for a perfectionist, which a lot of people are. But what's going to have the biggest impact? And it's that, I think it's that mentality as well that has a huge effect on people just enjoying the moment, because the brain is obsessed with the past and the future. It's obsessed with it. We're calling on past experiences, like you said, to make sure you survive the future. What it's not very good at is just enjoying the moment. And we've got to remind it. So falling in love with the process, enjoying it. When I'm on stage now, I used to be desperate to get the 45-minute talk over and done with, to get the end. What I was really looking for, and I didn't realize what it was I was really looking for external validation. I wanted people to give the round of applause. I wanted people to come over and go, that was excellent. And I still really like that, but I don't need it.
Mm.
Now I enjoy the talk for what it is. I enjoy the experience. I mean, how many people get to grab an audience? It's a pretty cool thing. I never used to be able to do it, and now I can do it. So I enjoy that now. Now, and I suppose that comes with experience. And the last thing I would say is, mastery can be boring and painful. Don't be frightened to lay both on the table and do what others aren't prepared to do, and you'll get what others won't get. They won't get it.
Yeah.
And if you push through that kind of almost that painful and monotony, but you're right, people want that. They want that instant gratification. They want excitement. They want to believe that their life is their Instagram page. It's just not. And that's a big part of it as well.
I think you're right. I think actually, I think one of the next phases or iterations within personal development will be that acknowledgement of that it's hard.
Yeah.
So I think to date, it's all been a little bit like, find what you love. It's okay. Yeah. You wake up doing what you love, then you'll never work another day in your life, that sort of stuff. And that's cool. It's nice. But actually, if we acknowledge again, look, it's simple. It's just not easy. Yeah. And there are certain things about mastery that are going to be hard. And if you actually acknowledge that it's hard, then that's a big part of it,
Absolutely. And it's that, like you say, it's shining a torch on that and understanding that bit's going to be hard. Nobody said it was going to be easy. You're getting something extraordinary at the end. The outcome will be you will be extraordinary, and the thing you'll have in your hands will be extraordinary. You might just have to go through a bit of boredom and a bit of pain, But often if you lay down the full stretch, people don't want to take it. But if you just give them one step at a time, they'll take it, and another one, and another one. And you don't need to know all the steps. You don't need to know them all. You just need to know the next one. What next one do I take to get me a little bit closer, a little bit further? And when you take that step, the second one appears, the third one appears, the fourth one, you just keep taking that step. And when you look up one day and you look at the view, you've created something beautiful. I remember standing up at the Olympics and looking out and going, how did I get here? It was just one step at a time. And now I'm in an Olympic final. I'm looking out into the world's best arena. It doesn't get any better than this, but it happened by focusing on the process, loving it, living it, and embracing it.
Nice. Well, look, thanks for your time. It's been brilliant to get your insights into it all from somebody who's achieved so much as well. So
likewise,
thanks for that
from yourself as well.
Cool.